I don't know why Gary has such gravitas.
Gary knows who he is.
I mean,
He does.
Gary would say, I do have a lot of weight. I weigh a lot.
Hey everybody, I'm Felicia Day.
And I'm Will Wheaton.
And this is the official Stuart Fails to Save the Universe podcast.
Every week we're sitting down with the creators, the cast, and the crew, and we're pulling apart whatever brilliant craziness they came up with for that episode.
We're talking about what the show is inspired by, what classic tropes it's riffing on, and where it gets completely off the map.
This week's episode is titled, spoiler, Stuart Makes a Wallet. It was written by Chuck Lorre, Zach Penn, and Bill Prady, and directed by Kyle Newacek. Now, those are the official government details, but since every episode of this show is taking place in a different universe, to keep things straight in my head, I have called this one the mental institution universe. What do you call it?
Well, I'd argue that it's actually the Matrix universe because that's the rug pull, but, since we spent a lot of time in the hospital, I mean, yours is okay too. It's also the Fleet Enema episode to me because that's my favorite scene.
I'd like to change what I call this episode.
This is a good moment to give you our spoiler warning. If you haven't already watched the episode, go do it right now at HBO Max and just come back afterwards.
We'll be here waiting for you, I promise. Later in the episode, we're talking to set designers Francoise Cherry-Cohen and Eugene Adamov.
But first, we're sitting down with Mayim Bialik, immortalized as Amy Farrah Fowler from The Big Bang Theory, and Tommy Walker, new to the group, but already legendary as the ever-returning Gary.
So, hey, take it away, us from the future. Really excited to welcome Dr. Mayim Bialik, who is Dr. Amy in this episode, and Tommy Walker, who is not a doctor, and is Gary, who is also not a doctor in this episode, though the way Gary keeps showing up from various parts of the multiverse, maybe he will be a doctor at some point.
Maybe.
It could happen.
Literally anything could happen.
Anything. The universe is the oyster, you know?
Mayim, I had such a good time when we worked together on Big Bang Theory. I found you to be an incredibly generous scene partner, and just, you love the work. How much of Amy did you bring from The Big Bang Theory to the iteration of Amy that you are playing here in Stuart Fails to Save the Universe?
Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment. It's really been a pleasure to know you as a person, but also to get to develop with you. I think that the question you're asking is kind of the question at the crux of this show.
Yeah.
Right? How much of us, right, come with us when we go into these different universes? And, to get a little metaphysical, it's the question of our humanity, right? Mm-hmm. How much of us do we bring into each of the situations and places that we find ourselves? The question that you asked is the one I kept asking myself. And the through line is me, the human, right? The voice, the body, the countenance, I could have been anything. Mm-hmm. And Melissa Rauch and I talked about, what are we going to be, right? And I'm like, maybe I'll be a vaudeville singer. It could be anything, right? Maybe I'm a stripper. It could be anything. No, I'm a psychiatrist, right? And yes, psychiatrists can be like anything. But generally speaking, what this part called for was a pretty square, pretty straight, a little bit more nuanced, I think, than Amy Farrah Fowler, but we're kind of in that universe.
And the chips, they were inserted with magic.
When I saw you and the gravitas that you brought, I was like, can this be a spinoff? Yeah. You were funny, but not overtly funny. And I was just like, oh, she could be a put-upon psychiatrist and this sort of like a house-like environment. I was completely sold on your performance as an anchor.
That's I appreciate it, and from your mouth to Chuck Lorre's ears, happy to oblige. But I think also the thing, and I think you probably experienced this as well. You get to do so much with whatever you're given in this kind of show that it becomes its own little play.
Without a doubt.
Let's follow up on that a little bit. Tommy, we have seen Gary in an apocalyptic wasteland, living in a totalitarian AI state, getting drinks in a magical bar. Now we see him in a rictus smile suburbia. Gary keeps coming in as a very different character over and over and over again, yet he is uniquely Gary in the entire thing.
I love that you say that.
I was thinking of him as kind of Stuart Fails to Save the Universe's ultimate red shirt.
That's really funny that you say the ultimate red shirt, because he is Gary. He still is a character, and every Gary was a completely different setting. And I mean completely. So
Yeah.
I got to be that guy, but in totally different facets.
Did you audition for the part?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get the part? Because I assume
I auditioned for mine. It's what's funny. They're like, who's gonna play?
They're like, we're not.
They're like, we need a Mayim Bialik type, but we'll see you.
And I auditioned. I showed up. Ready as can be.
Good for you,
With a lab coat.
you did the work.
Did you
Just owning
self-tape?
it.
I did a self-tape, that's right.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I want to know when you're coming in for a series, this is the character, right? But Gary's different over and over and over
Yeah.
again. What was your audition process like?
Great question. It was a self-tape.
What? People book off a self-tape?
Self-tape
him.
references are only
But
for
see,
the actors in the
I
audience.
was the one reading his lines offline with
She
him.
was my
I was
reader.
like, I'll do it for you.
And,
how you
and
got the
thank
job,
thank
right?
goodness her lighting was good because otherwise, like I said, you've just seen right through me. Like,
Yeah.
hey, he's iridescent. Can we
Yeah.
lower the? I auditioned for that self-tape, and like everyone expresses their shock that way.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. Because,
Did you have sides from more than one episode?
Great question.
Or because I know that they wrote all the scripts before, which is kind of cool, but
Yeah, it was 4 different scenes.
Whoa.
From I don't know if I can say the episodes, but yeah, it was like 1, 2, 8, and there's no context.
Right, no, there never is.
None. So you just
Yeah.
make a decision, and it was it was a funny script. So it was like I just attached to it and went with it.
did you get a
Unbelievable.
call back or was it just off self-tape you got hired?
The latter. It was
That's
just off self-tape.
That's crazy.
It was just
wild.
like boom, done. I kind of collapsed in my kitchen and was like, "You're joking, really?"
Yeah.
Mayim, did you know that the show was coming? Did you know that there was any kind of like that there was maybe a crack in the door that you might be walking through at some point, like a year from when you heard about it?
I actually had a friendship with Kevin Sussman and John Ross Bowie, and I know Brian Posehn, I know Lauren Lapkus. So like there were times when our worlds would intersect in ways that allowed me to learn about this. I think the complexity, which I'm sure you've all been dealing with and we're all dealing with, is kind of like the public scrutiny. And anytime there's like a mention on Deadline, it's like everyone comes to me, like just even friends and like my mom, like what's going on? What do you know? And so like I was then keeping Kevin's secret and John, like once I knew, then it was this sort of like keeping this under wraps.
Yeah.
I think that the moment though that it all coalesced and I found out it was the 4 of them, like I'm emotional just thinking about it because like there's not 4 other people that deserve this project. Yeah. And I don't just mean like success, right? Because like you also deserve all the success in the world. And I'm saying like the details around knowing each of their journeys and having their journeys with ours on The Big Bang Theory, it's so moving. It's so moving. I mean, I'm not old enough to be any of their moms, but I felt this like maternal kind of like, oh my gosh, this is happening for them.
Yeah.
And it's like happening also in a different format. Like that's so special because obviously we did the 4-camera thing. Like we know how to do that.
Well, I'd love to talk to you about that because it's a big difference to go from 4-camera to single camera as an actor.
What is it like also to work with all the same people that you know from a sitcom world?
Yeah.
Like our cadence is sitcom. It's almost like I forgot how to speak to people if not interacting about sitcom, right? Like I'm
It's weird
talking
to not hold for laughs.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like even talking with Chuck and with Bill and just like, the people, like our entire world was a 4-camera world, right?
Yeah.
So the conversations about character and movement and props and wardrobe, like everything is different. The lighting is different. Like you feel different.
Yeah.
And I had this experience when I did the episode of Young Sheldon, the finale of Young Sheldon, when Jim Parsons and I stepped into our characters in a single cam in like environment. Like, do I know how to speak like this? Like, am I funny? What's funny if there's no laugh track? So that was, I think, like training wheels for this. It's not about you, right?
Yeah.
It's about moving this plot forward as a different kind of ensemble participant. Would you agree?
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, you're pushing this whole world forward as opposed to just like, very good, very
Have
good.
you
answer.
done a multicam before?
I have. The Burbank Studios here has a lot of history for me. Yeah,
Are
I
you
spent a lot of years playing Drex on Henry Danger and Danger Force for Nickelodeon. I was their big bad guy, like the worst of the worst. But
Wow.
same experience, you know what I mean? It was very much like, it's like a play and there's a ton of marks and there's a lot, hold, don't move, it's like there's a
And
lot
that's a little
of...
bit, I would say, broader. The
Big
acting
time.
side.
Oh, it was huge. It was like playing a living cartoon.
You code as so safe and reassuring and gentle to me. It's crazy that you were the big bad at a
Awful.
show.
Oh,
That's
kids stop me. They'll
wild.
stop me in like a fruit store or Marshall's. They're like, "Are you him?" are you Drex? I'm like, yeah. You know, like, oh, you know. I'm like, oh, I swear I'm a nice guy.
You traumatized a whole generation of children.
And see, it's the gift that keeps on giving because they keep recycling new audiences, the new kids discover it, so Drex just lives on.
Mayim, you have a great moment in this episode with the puppet therapy. We don't hear what Dr. Amy is doing, but it's very specific. Do you remember?
The thing that I remember is how hard it was to not break. And to not make Kevin break. Because also Kevin and I, you know, we have this long history of working together and having a friendship, and we actually had a D&D campaign for years. So
we I had no idea. This is a D&D connection.
It's D&D Connect.
We played a version of GURPS, which is like so inside baseball that like it's like its own podcast.
I could talk to you about that for 5 hours.
Yeah, it was like right here. So Kevin and I had this whole like a set of interactions that when you place us in this scene with this kind of dynamic, like it's ridiculous.
You want to go off the rails.
It's
and just
ridiculous.
kind of be
and
at
I live to make people break. Like that's like, I mean, I made Jim Parsons break, I think in my either first or second season, and he was like, what? Like, no one does this.
That is, audience. Jim Parsons is maybe the most professional, focused, not fucking around actor on any set. I can't believe you did that.
But so that's what I remember from filming 104 was how much I got to like play with Kevin and remember like all of those moments of connection as actors.
If you make progress, it's not out of the question that someday you can leave.
Someday? What does someday mean?
It means a vague time in an unspecified future.
It seems like when we talk to everybody behind the scenes who are in front of the camera, all that, there was an atmosphere on set of just being like we're getting away with something. We're having so much fun.
I mean, I would say, you know, given the environment that I'm used to from like my decade on Big Bang, like it felt like joy. Like it felt like everyone was so joyful about the fact that this was happening. Like it was so meta. It's like everyone exhaled.
Yeah.
And like it's in that exhale space that like this show existed.
I was batshit crazy.
Not the word that I would use, but a word that I would think.
Tommy, which one of the versions of yourself did you enjoy the most?
Out of these four?
Out of these four.
Kripke's husband.
Wow.
I think 4. And I'm not saying that because this is a companion to 4. It's just because he does so little. He just shows up and there's
You're
a whole
just
existence.
You're just happily married.
I'm just living in Pleasantville, man.
You're terrible. Oh, you love it.
You are the most adorable couple. Oh my God, I wish I lived next door to them.
John was a lot of fun that day. Well, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I didn't know him very well up until that point, and we got to spend a lot of time together that day, and that was where we clicked very much.
That gentle kiss was just really beautiful.
He's hysterical. I can't say enough about John because once you get rolling with him,
And
you realize
his brain is always...
It's always on. He's always moving. And he's so sharp. He's sharp as a tack.
Funny.
He led that whole thing. It was fantastic.
But your quiet gravity of just being Gary. Yeah. I don't know why Gary has such gravitas.
Gary knows who
Well,
he is.
I mean, what
He does.
Gary would say, I do have a lot of weight. I weigh a lot. Deceivingly heavy amount.
this guy giving you the business?
Gary?
Hey, Stuart.
The way you play him is not so layered, and this is perfect for him, right?
Well, I kind of agree to a point, but in episode 3, there's something going on.
That's
Gary.
true. That's true.
He's not a happy man. If you look really closely, he's struggling.
Did you imagine that you had magical powers in 3?
No.
Oh, you're just a dude in a magic bar.
Yeah, he was like almost trapped.
Oh.
Like a civilian who didn't understand how he got there, how he could get out, and everything kept changing. Yeah, it's a very depressed. Lost his. I got some deep shit there. Lost a companion.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was drinking his sorrows away, and yeah.
And then also in 2, you have amazing layers. So Gary is really
2 was a lot of
funny.
fun.
He's got like a really thick. It's almost like a fondant, but underneath you've got the soft.
Yeah.
You've got that soft cake of the sort of like resentful like loathing.
Maybe.
In 2 with that marriage.
I would correct you if you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary's
There's a lot to him. He's
Soft but firm.
Yeah.
He's deep.
Yeah. Like a perfectly made flan.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
it is.
Yeah.
Not too custardy.
Yeah, with just a hint of caramel.
But to add on to what you were saying earlier too, which I really want to add on is that exhale thing that you said about the cast. I can't stress this enough, is like Kevin Sussman leading a show. I know it's an ensemble and it's a brilliant one, but Kevin Sussman was the most welcoming, championing actor almost that I had ever met, because it was like every time he saw me, he like almost went out of his way to like talk about something we did or how much fun he had or almost breaking and things like that. And then Lauren Lapkus was like a walking exhale. She was there was so much calm to her every day. She's so chill. And Brian's Brian. I mean, you get Brian talking about rock and you're in the pocket. You know what I mean? Some metal, talk some metal and you're done.
Sure.
So, you know, and like I said, John was like, once you see how John rolls.
Would you talk about your experience coming in with all these people who know each other and have, you know, they know their characters?
Oh, wow. I got a little speechless there for a second. Because I'm recalling, like, you know, no pressure, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
There wasn't an ounce of not being completely welcoming, open, loose. Everyone, and I mean it, everyone treated me like I'd already been there forever.
I think loose is a good word. Like the acting environment, it felt very playful.
Oh,
it felt very almost like the way you'd expect experimental like play
Yeah.
in the acting world to feel.
It was very different from the multicam, which was much
Totally.
more
Big
strict.
It felt more
and-
like if you're like hanging out with a bunch of groundlings, you know, and you're like, let's make up a
100%.
scene. Like, let's do. It felt a lot more like that. It felt much more kind of like, and I think that's the thing. Like, you know, it's got guardrails, so you know where you can and can't go. But within that, I think there's a lot more play and a lot of toggle space, even more than a multicam.
There was such confidence in everybody, it seemed. It was like unspoken confidence. It was like, well, no, he knows what he's doing.
It's
That kind of
crazy.
thing.
It's really interesting to me.
It's a good
like
thing you do.
Right.
when there's that level of confidence and security and just enjoyment of what you're doing, nobody needs to roll in with an attitude to like overcompensate for that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it does. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, well, sometimes, as actors, we fight so hard for every single opportunity and we get so much pressure on ourselves internally, but also there's a lot of pressure. This is a high pressure situation. I've been fired at a table read. I've been, these are, you go in with fear.
You
And
don't need to bring up that time that I fired you at a table read.
Oh, there it is.
This is it.
Elephant in the room.
I think it was the right choice.
I wanted to talk to you about this.
No, it's funny you mention that, and I was just laughing because like a very dumb snafu happened the first day that I went to set. I must have had the earliest call because ladies and makeup and whatever was happening that day. So it's like the sun has not come up yet, and I pull up to the gate. It's like a normal thing. And like my name wasn't at the gate, which like it just like it happened. Like things like this happen, and I didn't like get mad. But it was so interesting because it was like so humbling to be like, this is your first day, and like your name is not at the gate.
Like, yeah, we don't.
Hey.
We don't
And this is
see
not
it.
like to call out like also
No.
fantastic staff, fantastic crew.
Yeah.
Could have been any, but I was like, how humbling. Like we're here to make a TV show, right? Like that's still what we're doing. Like it doesn't have to be more, and it doesn't have to be less.
It's kind of fun to still have that sort of like, well, this is a new experience, and I'm still learning about me as a person.
The sun wasn't up, and I was tired. I just like wanted to get a
I would have
breakfast
been.
burrito.
I just would have thought, oh my God, I got fired and no one
That's
told
it.
me.
That's it. I'm
That's what
done.
happened to me.
They replaced
It
me
happened to me.
overnight.
I just got written out, and they didn't actually tell anybody.
You
so
just
I just showed up, and they were like, "You're not on the
sorry,
script
there's-
anymore."
There's
Oh
no
my
character.
God.
Bye. It's
Did they
fine.
at
We're
least-
all
Did they at least get paid for the day?
no.
What?
No, it was somebody forgot to like
Forgot to
PA
tell me I
forgot
was
to be like, oh, we don't need to give her a call time.
It was so awkward. Anyway, it's fine. I'm not
Wow.
resentful. Let's talk about Mayim. You actually have a PhD.
I do.
In actual neuroscience.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yes.
Did you channel any of that in becoming a psychiatrist here? Because
Do you have any notes as
Yeah.
an actual doctor on the writing of the
Any
doctor you played?
corrections?
Yeah.
But it's funny though because on Big Bang, I obviously like was more in the neurobiology world, and we were slicing brains, and I was like running PCRs, and this is fun to. It's not the first time I played a version of myself as a psychiatrist. Also, I should say
You're
that.
very good at it,
but
again.
thank you. Well, this is the thing. I've been in therapy my whole life, so I have a lot of practice, like sitting across from people like this. But I love a clipboard. I love a name thing. Like I wanted a name tag. That was the only thing. I was like, it's a weird thing to be particular, but like yes, and also to be an institutional psychiatrist, like that's a different vibe also that I, have a lot of compassion, right, for this world that we're depicting. And I think it was actually done really beautifully to kind of show some of that complexity of what do you do when you think something that other people are not clocking.
You're slicing a brain emotionally.
That's right.
At the end of the episode, we reveal that they're in
They're in the Matrix.
the Matrix. So
Yeah.
you are technically in the Matrix.
That's right.
We could make the argument
You are
that,
too.
that you're like evil Matrix manifestations sent here to mess with these guys.
Or you're in a pod. You're in one of those pods.
Could be in one of those pods.
Right.
Yep.
Weird intellectual nerd like this just loves to think about all of those layers and all of those things.
I have a podcast that looks a lot at these places.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot to theoretical physicists and people about the possibility or impossibility of a multiverse. What does it mean, you know, for things to be paired and for things to be entwined? But I think there's so much fun to be had here. And, you know, I think the whole thing, it's very meta. Like, this could be the Truman Show right now.
Exactly.
Right? We're being watching
Yeah.
this show about the multiverse.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fantasy nerd. I'm a big comic book nerd. So like, I grew up in reading the DC universe and the multiverse and the Crisis on Infinite Earths and everything. So like, to me, I kind of unpack it that way, where I go, then that's fun for me because every single universe is different. And you go, well, that's endless. And then, like you said, the Matrix, all of a sudden, that's a whole nother separate thing right there that's possible.
Yeah.
So for me, I get very geeky and sci-fi about it.
I think also that breaking of the fourth wall, which only exists kind of in sitcom conversations, right? But I guess technically it exists in all these conversations. That stuff is most interesting to me because I know the people writing it and I know who's behind it, right?
You're seeing another aspect of the creators you've worked with for so
Yeah.
long, and you're saying like, oh wow, they found something super fresh here. I didn't know that they had that needed to come out.
It's like Oz. It's like we're peeking behind the curtain, you know, intellectually of like.
Oh, I thought you meant like Oz, the TV show in the prison.
Yeah,
It's a very,
Prison Oz, a Wizard
very,
No,
it's a very different image.
No,
in my
but
head.
it is you're encountering the Wizard of Oz. Like
Yeah,
you've seen this whole world, right, that exists outside, right? And now we're kind of getting to see the inner workings. And, you know, I mean, I think this is happening a lot in our industry right now. You know, we're revisiting and it looked like a nostalgia wave at first, but like now it looks like something different.
Yeah.
It's like we're interested in the other aspects that we weren't allowed to think about, right? And this show allows us to think about everything. Like, it's
Exactly.
every what if, you know?
Big swings and just like unfettered. You see what I mean?
Well, I mean, we could go on forever, but we do have one question that we always end an interview with. If you could live in any multiverse, any at all that you could think of,
You
not
can
just
make
the
up
show,
any rules you want.
exactly what multiverse would you want to live in?
Tommy or Gary?
Tommy, as a person, but Gary?
See how you go? Like,
Yeah.
think about everything and then forget about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now you have to give us two answers.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's easy. I would, without a doubt, pick the DC universe. And I'm not saying that because it's a Warner thing and all that. No, I'm not saying that, not at all.
Which DC universe?
Earth One.
Okay.
I'm
Powers?
going to go basic.
Yeah, sure.
Powers? Would you
that's
have
great.
powers?
Yes.
What would your superpower be?
I mean, my favorite character is Superman, which
Great.
is kind of an unconventional answer. Maybe not now because, you know, it's like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
always was.
Yeah.
So somewhere around that realm, some type of Kryptonian power or hybrid.
Okay. Where does Gary want to live?
Gary wants to live in, without saying too much, he wants to live in episode 8.
Okay. Perfect. That's all we need to know.
There you go.
That's a deep cut.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
That's a big
the-
teaser.
That's
Yeah.
the essence of well, one of the essences,
Yeah.
one of the most strong essences of Gary.
1 month from now, everybody, you will find out
4
the
weeks
episode to which he is referring. What's your answer,
I
Miss
mean,
Mayim?
this is hard. It's like I have so many questions about the question, which already means like we're too deep into my head.
I love it.
That sounds like a great place to be.
It does feel like
you
a
know
great...
what? I'm gonna go for the multiverse where it's just all zeros and ones.
That's it. Where it's just information.
Correct.
Oh my God.
I'm most
How
interested
does
in
that universe experience itself?
I mean, this is, I think, the ultimate question. If there's an information field and it's just, everything is data, that's the multiverse, I think, that would be most comfortable.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Mayim Bialik.
Sorry, that felt like kind of a downer answer.
No, it's not a downer.
Really,
It made
it's
me
just really
think.
heady.
I'm sorry.
How dare you bring thinking to this
sorry.
universe?
Yeah,
Zeros
yeah.
and ones.
No,
Just
look,
zeros and
kids,
ones.
you've got some homework. Take this topic, write 5 sentences on it, and just have it on my desk in the morning. And I'm going to select 4 of them to be read in front of the class.
Oh,
so,
good.
put a little bit of work into it. Mayim Bialik, Tommy
Thanks.
Walker, thank you so
Thank
very,
you for
very much.
having us.
You
Thank
are
you.
delightful in our room. You are delightful on this show.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being here.
Thank you very much.
We hope to see many Garys and many Amy's in the
Yeah.
future.
Who knows?
Well, I really enjoyed that interview because I love Mayim, and I also love Tommy, the new guy.
Yeah, they're terrific. I sat next to Tommy when I did my read through, and I was like, "Oh, I think I'm your biggest fan."
He's 70s hot. I don't mean to objectify him, but he's 70s hot.
Coming up, the people who actually built the asylum, the suburb, and that crazy bending hallway, set designers Francoise Cherry-Cohen and Eugene Adamov. Welcome, set designers Eugene Adamov and Francoise Cherry-Cohen. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.
Not to ignore you, Eugene, but Francoise Cherry, that's like, are you just a femme fatale in a comic book yourself?
Francois Chéri.
It is a pretty, I couldn't not use cherry, so I had to hyphenate because, you know.
You had to keep the cherry.
It's the
Yeah, phrasing.
phrasing.
That's you have a great Ed Brubaker villainous name,
Right?
Which is
that's right.
Which
That's
you
a
really
good one.
love,
I like the
right?
reference.
Yeah.
So you guys are set designers. Can you explain to anybody who might not understand what that is, what you guys do on set?
Sure. We get usually images from the production designer with an outline of what it is that they want to get done for the project. So then I will do a 3D model in SketchUp and do different renderings for them so they can then present to the directors and the producers for approval. There's material changes that we'll do for them at times, all concept-y stuff. And then once that's been approved after numerous changes, I do 2D construction drawings and cut everything, do section cuts, floor plans, elevations, detail drawings, and then hand that off to construction. And then they facilitate building that.
So essentially, the production designer will do the painting, and then you guys make it practical.
You know, it depends. They give us an idea of what they want, either with a sketch or an image they found from a magazine, or they'll actually do a model themselves and then hand it off to us, and then we will go into the details of that.
Great. And Francois, when you get all the details, do you get really excited that you can collaborate with the production designer?
Yeah, I do like collaborating. I like talking to all the different departments, like construction and the production designer, the art directors, because I really feel it's a great team effort. Like, I would consult with Eugene a lot and, how should I draw this? What should be done?
When I worked on Next Generation as a teenager, the art department is where I loved to hang out because I really liked watching how all this stuff came together. Right. One of my favorite things ever were the little foam core models of the set before it was presented. I'm guessing you don't really do that anymore because you don't need to.
Well, they actually did do some foam core models.
Oh,
really?
Great. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that that's still going on.
Because on other shows that I've done, we always did foam core models, and so I ended up doing some for Stuart. So that was really fun, and I think people ended up really liking them.
Yeah. Which ones did you happen to build out like that?
I did some backlot stuff for the Universal backlot.
We had to do that for the scaling because that's the one where Bernadette's huge, right?
Oh, yes.
So they had to get the right scale for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then that was one of the things where I had to do the green screen model, if you will, of the blocking, so we could make sure that she's walking through the right path and she's not hitting the trees and all that kind of stuff in post.
I was talking to Bill Prady, who is one of the creators and executive producers and writers, and also just one of my best friends.
Name dropper.
And he was telling me that it was the most fun ever to just set Melissa loose in that set. Yeah. Would you just talk? I know it's not this episode, but it's just we have you here.
It's the last episode.
Talk about how fun it was to build Pasadena for her to smash.
Yeah. Well, they did a LiDAR scan of the backlot, right?
Yeah.
And then we had to import it into the computer, and then you had to do the big blocking and everything, and get the right scale and do all the math for that, which was fun. Wow. And then we laid that out and then sent that off to construction. It was really weird because you see her walking through there and just ripping up the roof of the thing and looking in and throwing something and that kind of stuff. So it was fun to watch it.
Speaking of the roof, this brings me to the comic book shop. For everyone who doesn't know, Francoise worked on Big Bang Theory. The comic book shop on Big Bang Theory was very simple, right?
Yes.
It's just 3 walls and a little bit of dressing. In this show, it is it's your home base.
Yeah. Sure.
So you had to spend, or I guess you got to spend a lot more time sort of setting it up, and then you have to redress it to reflect each different universe.
Yeah, I got this deja vu feeling when I walked onto the set and I saw the comic book store. For multi-camera, you're shooting with a live audience, and so you only have 3 walls. No ceiling, no fourth wall. And for Stuart, it was the complete set. So they had to envision what the fourth walls would look like and what the ceiling would look like. So it's, very different, but the same.
It's kind of like seeing an actor in real life, and their
Yes.
head is never the same size you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's
I thought you were taller.
Yeah, or taller or shorter.
Yeah. There's clear homages to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in this episode. But I also got a little Pleasantville. I got a little Truman Show. Was it the Warner's backlot or the Universal backlot for the exteriors? Because it felt to me like, oh, right, of course, it's the mid-century backlot from every episode of The Twilight Zone, from every
true.
episode of Ozzie and Harriet. Like, it felt very familiar to me.
Well, the backlot where he's walking, or Stuart's walking to the comic book store, that was on the backlot at Universal.
Okay.
And then the house was in a neighborhood in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And what about the mental hospital?
That was Universal. We built that hospital. Yes.
Yeah, cool. So that was on a soundstage.
Yeah, we did the radius floor and everything for the ramp when he goes sliding down.
So when Stuart slides backwards on that big old zoop, like that was real?
Yep. That's a 20-foot ramp.
How, you just built it?
Well, I didn't. Construction did.
Wait, what?
It's insane.
Yeah.
When you say radius, it's a curve, right?
Yeah.
How?
So we built a 20-foot radius ramp, kind of like a skateboarding pike. Instead of just your flat hallway, it goes up like 20 feet on a 20-foot radius.
Did anybody put roller skates on and try to go down it?
Oh, that's such
It
a
was
good
really
idea.
steep.
It was
It was
super
really,
steep.
really steep.
It was super steep.
Yeah.
You could only get
So we
about
could have
6
called Tony Hawk over to drop in on
Right.
this.
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Do a
It's the
couple
perfect
spins.
pipeline kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like my daughter when she wants to go up the slide. I'm like, we don't go up the slide, and they just keep going.
Yeah. Well, you have to have an amazing construction crew, which we did.
For sure.
And we had to get approval from the producer and Chuck to make sure that that's what they wanted. The height was going to get the comedy of it all. And then, lighting's got to get in there, so it's a whole big team effort to get that look to look like a special effect when it was actually a practical effect.
Every designer I have ever talked to, every special effects artist I've ever talked to, every actor I've ever talked to, can we do it practical? We really want to do it practical because it feels cooler, right?
Yeah.
It's so much more impressive and fun.
better.
Did you guys get to be on set when Weird Al was there?
I was not, were you?
No, I never really get to see all the stars. They're like, draw more, draw more.
Oh, right. Get back into the mine.
Yeah.
That
very
sucks.
few
Oh, that's a
times
bummer.
ever, yeah.
You get at least to come down for craft service or no? Okay. This particular episode, you got like the Matrix, you've got the mental hospital, you got the Pleasantville, you've also got the art installation, the gallery, which was very like New York. Like a lot of people were like very fashionable.
I love that he wants to know what kind of famous artist he is.
I love that line.
Help me out. Am I down to earth famous or more asshole famous?
Asshole.
Great.
So how do they do all the artists? Because there's art in the gallery, there's art on the wall in the mental hospital in his room, and like it's beautiful how they sort of like take it off the wall, but there's a lot of different techniques. Like, did one person do all those drawings?
No,
or?
there's multiple people. But they had other artists that they were trying to emulate. I know the art director, Walter, he had a field day of trying to find the right artist. They wanted to make sure that they had the right illustrators who could do that. Because some are more, comic-y, some are more traditional, and then it was just a matter of them, zhuzhing it. And I think they used a lot of digital stuff to figure that out, and then they would go in and paint it. Or they I think they actually did the digital painting, and then just printed it out, and then they added some more layers of aging and texture.
When I walked into the set for my first day, John Bowie grabs me and he's like, look at this. And he shows me the comic books.
Right.
And all the comic books have these hilarious references that probably aren't going to read on screen, but like we know that they are all there.
Yeah.
And then there's all these practical effects of all these great little, magical things blowing up all over the place.
A lot of that was set dressing.
They made sure they did that with all little details for each universe, which is insane.
Yeah, it is.
That was a lot of work.
That's a lot of detail.
So the department head goes, it looks like this.
Production.
And then you guys go, oh, cool, I'm going to take your mood board and I'm going to do this, and here's what it looks like practically. Hey, set decorators, make it look like this.
Right.
Just walk through your process just a little bit, broadly.
Well, so they'll give us like a concept, a picture, a sketch of what they want it to look like. Then we'll do the architectural drawings
Okay.
for the sets to be built. So construction then goes off of our drawings to build the sets.
So something doesn't like, Matt, that's you.
That's us. Yeah.
You're like, oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I'm sure that never has happened.
Oh, actually.
What's the biggest mistake you ever made?
Well, on this show, we were going on location, and we were building some walls to fit in this location, and I believe I drew the walls a little bit too short.
Oh no.
So then they had to put like a filler piece.
You were like flooded. It's like pants you get and you're like, oh no.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
Is there a difference in just the way you prep between multicam and single cam?
Well, I think in a multicam world, basically every week you're doing new swing sets.
Yeah.
So I think I don't want to say it's a faster pace, but you're constantly redoing sets, reworking sets. A swing set is a set that comes in and out. So the psychiatric ward, that is a swing set. So it's just specifically for the one episode that it's built.
When a set comes back but isn't in every episode, like the cafeteria Big Bang Theory,
Yes.
we call that a swing set too?
That is a swing set, yes.
Is there a difference in the lighting? Like you have to think about color and shape differently in multicam versus single cam?
In the hospital, when they're in that big activities room, we don't have these type of lights. There was actually practical lights that were in the ceiling and such. So that was more. That's more realistic.
Was that a practical location that wasn't built? That was
all built.
No way.
Yeah.
Good
It looks so real.
Nice
So
shot.
in the
It looks
hallways-
stinky.
I was trying to figure out like which abandoned hospital in town y'all had filmed in. Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, so there's certain rooms that are definitely all practical lights, and then others like down the hallway, because it's 12-foot tall ceilings, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
That you could do the lights above.
In like 1986, I did an episode of Saint Elsewhere, the hospital show.
Wow.
And I was so excited when I walked.
Were
into
you
the
sick,
set.
or was it your parents who were sick? Like, what was the role?
I was a character who was like a proto Doogie Howser.
Oh.
I was a teenager doctor
Wow.
who went in and like had to do a thing and couldn't handle it. And then I had a lovely scene with Stephen First. What an amazing man. May his memory be a blessing. What a lovely man. But I walked in and I was like, there's a ceiling here. I was so excited that there was a ceiling because we never have ceilings ever. I looked up in the comic book shop set and was like, not only is it a ceiling, but it's a beautiful ceiling. It's wood. It's open beam. It has skylights. Like,
It was
You just got to do, like
amazing.
talk about coming up with that because on Big Bang we never see that ceiling.
No.
I
Never
was
see a
like,
ceiling.
it's just a nice flat boring ceiling. It's a
Yeah.
drop ceiling.
The comic book sort of was like on steroids for this. It was just so much bigger and so much more detailed with the fourth wall and the ceiling. And when my first day there on set and looking up at that ceiling, I was so impressed because it was amazing because it was this wood beams and the skylights. It was
the details.
It was beautiful.
So, you guys are professional at making things look amazing. How are your houses? Are you like a doctor? It's like, oh, it's not broken. You just go put a Band-Aid on it. Or are you like, absolutely everything is delectable in my house? Like, what's the aesthetic of your house, Eugene?
Oh, it's very clean. Lots of pottery.
What's that like?
I have to pay somebody. I don't have the energy on the weekends.
No.
Yeah, and it's a whole thing. Like, am I going to spend this much money to have somebody clean my house? I'm like, yeah.
Let somebody do it. But
I don't have
aesthetically,
kids.
did you? Yeah, it's fine. You just live in a white. You're like me.
Did you build a white void for your house?
White void,
There's a
yeah,
great
like
white void in this episode.
Yeah.
What about you, Francois?
Oh, my house is very different. I have 2 dogs, 2 kids, a husband. It's
See, now this I can relate to.
it's pretty chaotic.
So you live vicariously through your job.
Yes.
And then at home, it's just nothing.
Yes, it's like this is the house I wish I could live in.
Yeah, you're not bringing your work home. No. I get you, man. When I see those people with like super clean houses, and especially when they have children, I'm like, they're psychotic and they're not good parents.
There's so many bodies under those floorboards.
Absolutely.
Eugene, I just need to nerd out at you about Perry Mason for a minute. It's so beautiful. So that's a period piece, right? And you get to do a lot of things, right? This is kind of a period piece too, in that we're just we're representing something that isn't actually real. Did you bring skills from that over to?
Yeah, I mean, each job I kind of feel like if you're lucky, you can remember something to take on to the next project.
Yeah.
So getting to do sci-fi and history and all that different stuff makes it a lot more fun.
It's a lot more fun. Like you're really
'Cause you know,
mixing it
you
up
kinda
every
know what you're
week.
doing. Because a lot of times you're kind of just like flailing. And you're like, how the fuck am I going to figure this out?
We never, we all are all the time. We never admit it, right?
I don't know what I'm doing right now. I can't even read.
So Stuart fails to save the universe. He fails to save every universe. I mean, there's an infinite number of multiverses. This is something I've spent more time than a healthy person should thinking about. If you could choose any multiverse from the series to live in, what would it be? Follow-up bonus question. You get to decide the rules of any multiverse. What do you want it to be?
I do like the ideal family kind of throwback to the 50s television multi-camera show.
Okay, Eugene.
The ones I want to talk about, I can't, but the magic one, I really like that one a lot.
Yeah, that one's really good. I would want to live there too, but I would.
It's a great universe. I'm very powerful.
Yeah, I would want to be more powerful than him.
Now I'm dead now, but before I was dead, I was doing great.
I could resurrect you, but just to be slightly less powerful than me.
I'm really grateful, and I feel that it's a real privilege that we are getting to talk to people like yourselves who have done so much incredible behind-the-scenes work to bring this show and other shows to life. There's somebody in the audience who thinks, you know what, I think I might want to do this someday. What's some advice that you would have for your younger self? What's a thing you wish you knew, or someplace that you would direct someone who's like, I just kind of want to look into this and see how I would do it? What would you say to that?
I grew up just always watching TV and movies and multi-cameras, and I had a real love for it. So when I went to college, Cal State Long Beach, I was in the theater department. And theater is
I was getting theater kid vibes from you when we met this morning.
It's very similar to multicam because you're, again, with the audience. It's a dream. This was my dream job, and I went and I got it. I did put in the time, worked my way up the ladder, and just if you have a dream, go for it.
Okay, cool.
Be creative and get paid for it. Like, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
How many people can say they're living their dream?
Yeah.
You know,
It actually makes me so happy to hear you say that, because I know how hard it is just to work at all in this industry that is currently kind of collapsing on itself.
Yeah.
So to also be working in it and really living the dream that you always have.
Right.
Yeah.
And
creating worlds for people to escape in, and it's so important. So thank you to both of you for what you do. Every single episode now, I'm going to be zooming in to see what I missed of all the details that you created. It was so
You
great.
guys, thank you for being here, for giving us some of your time today. It's been so much fun to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
I love talking with our guests today, Mayim Bialik, Tommy Walker, Francoise Cherry-Cohen, and Eugene Adamov.
It is always so exciting when we get to talk to artists. And just remember that every person who works on a show, regardless of their department, is creating art in a really special way.
Yeah.
The next episode is called Spoiler, Bert Gets Married, and you can watch or listen to us discuss it right after the new episode drops.
Yes, stream new episodes of Stuart Fails to Save the Universe on HBO Max, and catch the official Stuart Fails to Save the Universe podcast on HBO Max, the HBO Max YouTube channel, and wherever you get podcasts.
That's us.
Yeah.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Ding. And that's the show today.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming, everybody. Hope you had a good time. I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
Nah.
Oh, well, I had a good time. We'll see you next week. This has been an OBB sound production for HBO Max, co-hosted by Felicia Day and Will Wheaton.
Executive producers for HBO Max are Becky Rowe and Kenya Reyes.
For OBB, executive producers are Michael D. Ratner, Scott Ratner, and Toby Lawless.
Producer for OBB, Toby Lawless. Production manager, Kevin Lynn. Segment producer, Jesse Holland. Associate producer, Patrick Strapazone. Technical director, In-Sung Huang.
Editor, Jesse Holland. Post-production supervisor, Mariana Crisostomo. Assistant editor, Mark Alcacid. Production accountant, Zachary Steinberg, and Ross Hush.
Director of photography, Heath Gresham.
Production designer, Liz Klakowski. Set designer, Aga Shostakovska. Lead man, Kevin Fallon. Set dresser, Robert Pound. Brian Kim, Shabazz Burwell, and Zachary Taylor.
Sound mixer and editor, Josh Falcon. On-set mixer, Darren Bowling.
Key hair and makeup artist, Kendall Shannon. Wardrobe stylist, Kristen Ingram. Wardrobe assistant, Sonia Desai. Christina Pombo Valdez.
Production assistant, Max Jordan. Production interns, John Thalbom and Ava Grimes.
Senior Director of Creative Development and Social Strategy for OBB is Lenore Castro. Manager of Creative Development and Social Strategy for OBB is Sharif Bakare.
Special thanks to Graphic and Artwork, HBO Max Concept and Design Studio. Creative lead for DC, Victor Diaz. Show props courtesy of Sarah Snyder and Miley Casera.